So before we go whole hard into it, we may have a few more people show up. It's still early, but why don't we start with this victorious man here? If you would introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Ricardo Adams. I'm a resident of Arnett Boulevard, down the street. I work at Center for Youth overnight, and I volunteer in the school 4 hours a day, every day for the last 8-9 years since my daughter's in pre-K to reduce class size. So that's my connection with education. That's why I'm, Plus, my wife was a school board member for about 6 years.
We know her.
So it's kind of like rubbed off. She kind of forced it because I told her I had too much stuff on my plate. She told me to get a bigger plate. So here I am.
You work at the Center for Youth at night?
Yeah, overnight. We have a house on Field Street with 6 young men that are trying to find their way, going to school and working and saving and trying to find their way. They're homeless, but they're not. Most of them aren't family lists. It's just that they needed to be. One guy had been working and giving his mom some of his money, but she still wouldn't give him a key. So, come on. And now she wants to come over there and borrow money from him, so it's, yeah.
Okay, let's go around your name.
Colleen McCarthy. Colleen. I explained I had oral surgery, so it's a little hard to talk today. But I'm retired, but I still work at MCC, and I'm the education chair for a group called Many Neighbors Building Neighborhoods.
Yeah.
I saw you. Beatrice wasn't there, but at Monroe High School at the public forum, you and Bobby were there.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed, and of course, I voted for you.
Thank you.
Bobby unfortunately didn't get in, and neither did Anthony. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. Hope we'll see a lot more of you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Avril Little. I live in the neighborhood, and I work for the Villa of Hope, work with teens in the community providing mental health support.
Where do you work?
With the Villa of Hope.
Villa of Hope.
Formerly St. Joseph's Villa.
Oh, yeah.
So,
And do we have it?
I work in the community department, so keeping kids at home, mainly focusing on kids transitioning out of hospitalization for psychiatric needs. And I also work part-time at the YMCA just on Thurston.
Eleanor Coleman. I'm with Catholic Family Center's Youth Build program, and I'm handing out these flyers because we're having a special orientation on Friday at 1 for next Monday's class for 17 to 24-year-olds. It's construction free. And I know this isn't the time I'm supposed to do that, but I don't care because if people leave early, now they'll know.
Construction.
She's
free?
taking the notes so she can say it whenever she wants.
Free, a seminar, is that it?
No, it's classes, 18 weeks of classes. They get paid $50 a week.
$53?
$50 a week to attend.
My God.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Sibley's couldn't have matched that.
Good program.
Yeah, John Lang, 19th Floor resident, 19th Floor Community Association Schools Committee in this community.
Betsy Romson, resident of the 19th Ward for a few years.
Yes, quite a few.
Quite a few.
I was looking at meeting notes from 2012, and you were there when we started this whole mess.
Oh, well, thank you, John. Well, I think it's a very important committee.
Well, we try to keep it relevant.
Especially as a retired teacher. I mean, and I was just horrified that the newspaper had nothing about the election. Even city newspaper had nothing.
No, not today.
You taught in the city schools?
No, no. I taught in the Catholic schools in Detroit, which was a different place then.
Yes, there's been a lot of changes there and here
Right.
since then. Okay, my name's John Boutte. Live in the 19th Ward and work on the Southwest Common Council as co-chair and on this committee as chair. And just in time,
Oh, good, because I just left my classroom.
have a seat.
It's the longest day of my life.
Very late to be getting out.
Well, you know, us teachers, we're devoted.
That's right.
Wasn't that the right answer to say?
That's right. Despite everything everybody says, you know.
And what is your name, please?
Karen Lahr
Karen, okay.
from 44 School. And I think Tammy Hahn is coming.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about our new principal. I did, she asked us if we were coming, and I said yes. And she doesn't technically start till July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So, but she's very concerned.
Now her name is.
Shalonda?
Shalonda Garfield.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I saw her response to Tammy Hahn's letter.
Yes.
Shalonda Garfield. Yep.
Solana Garcia.
No, Shalonda Garfield.
Garfield. Got all that wrong.
And former principal there went up to Boys Academy or something.
He's going to northeast, northwest.
Where
So
is
he-
that?
I don't know. I only teach here. I don't know where everything is. Yeah, it's in the northwest part of the city.
Oh, down by the
Maybe
lake.
the northeast, because
By the
it's.
lake.
I don't know where it is.
You mean Leadership Academy? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think so. Young Men's Leadership
Well, Healy
Academy.
Moore, I think, is not gonna be there anymore, I think. I could be wrong.
Oh, I think you're correct.
Okay.
Yep, I'm pretty sure you're correct.
It's folding.
No,
No.
I don't know where he's going, but he's going. I don't know. It's a big move around.
Okay, let's, you've got an agenda there. Let's try to, just for the heck of it, stick to the agenda for a bit. I'm sure we're gonna bounce around because everything on this agenda is so intertwined that we'll probably get off on various topics as we go through it. The Square Fair report, you know, the big thing that all of you know what Square Fair is here, that we have a fair once a year over in Aberdeen Square. And we had hoped that we would have School 16 open for tours. It would have been a great opportunity to get people who come to the fair to go see 16. And for a variety of reasons, it didn't happen. There was a competing Rochester City School District event going on at it was supposed to be up at the lake there. It got canceled on Thursday, and I got Mark Schmidt to agree to do the tours, or at least he'd open the school, but then they couldn't get people to
Do the tour.
staff the tour, so it didn't happen. And even more annoying, we had one teacher come by our table. We had somewhere in here, we had tables set up at the fair to so that people would, we did get the district to send their student equity and placement group there, so they had a tent, and we had hoped that these folks in, working with teachers who could be trying to recruit kids from the area for their schools would be able to work hand in glove and do some good local recruiting, put out a real good face to the neighborhood that here we are, teachers stepping off the school grounds. Didn't happen. And the teacher that did stop by, she's been working with us since 2012. She works at 16, but she's retiring this year, you know, so that. So anyways, we have work to do. We desperately need to get the neighborhoods throughout the city to see the teachers, to interact with the teachers, and we need the teachers likewise get more familiar with the neighborhoods because they're not as bad as a lot of people think. So anyways, that was an opportunity that got missed. We, within an hour of my reporting how things went to folks downtown, I asked, can we get the school open for tours the day that the 19th Ward Community Association is having house tours in October? And I heard back from Mike Schmidt within an hour, we'll be sure to have it open, you know, so we need to make sure we have some teachers from 16 running the tours, but also, hopefully, we'll get teachers from throughout the city to come for these tours, because this is a great opportunity.
What's the date, did you say?
It's October 19th, I believe it is.
October 19th.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
16.
yeah, they'll be starting at 16, so people generally come from, you know, throughout the Monroe County area. So this is a good chance to give people from the burbs a
Yeah.
see inside the schools and see, gee, this isn't half bad, you know, it just got renovated a year ago. You'd think that everybody at that school would have been just dying to run a tour. So anyways, we're going to do it on the 19th and hopefully also get teachers out into the community to see all these beautiful houses, because you've got some houses that you couldn't touch in the suburbs in terms
Yeah.
of the quality of the homes, and people who are showing these off will probably work their tails off for 2 months before
Yeah.
the tour.
The reason they don't stay is because of the schools.
But the schools are one of the big issues, you know, and that's.
John, how are you getting the teachers out for the tour or out in the community that day? What are you?
We're hoping that we'll have, you know, half a dozen teachers at 16 that know the school that'll have tours in the school. Mm-hmm. And then as people come, you know, from wherever, they can opt to do that. But also it would be nice if we played it up with teachers certainly throughout the Southwest here. Here's an opportunity to go out and see some interesting homes, and ultimately, you'd really like to have young teachers coming to the city out of college to consider
Yeah.
having a place in the city, because we need to have more interaction that way.
John, do they ever think of doing what the U of R did, offering their professors a cut rate deal?
Well, that's been talked about. I don't know if they've done it. The city does it, so it may be something that we can.
City does it?
Okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah, at various times they've tried to encourage police officers to live in the city. And
Yeah.
They
so-
used to, and then they went to Albany and got exempt.
Well, some people don't want a good deal, I guess.
No.
Okay, we have a new face there. You want to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Teresa. I'm here with Cornell Cooperative Extension in Monroe County. I'm in AmeriCorps Vista working on expanding the 4-H Youth Development Program into the city of Rochester.
I didn't get all of that. Could you repeat some of that?
I'm at AmeriCorps Vista, and I'm
Oh.
working on expanding 4-H into the city of Rochester.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, and Joe Baldino said he'd probably be late, but
Okay.
he may make it down here too, because you're working a lot with 29, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. So that kind of covers square fare. The Building City Neighborhoods connection, we do have an agreement from Daisy Algren that she's the director of neighborhood service centers throughout Rochester.
Daisy L?
Daisy Algren, A-L-G-A-R-O-N or I-N, I'm not sure. And
She's a coordinator?
yeah, she's downtown at City Hall. And I got together with her a while back to see is there anything we can do to try to get some of these organizations that are part of the city to pump some resources into the schools. And one thing that I was hoping that she might be able to help with is getting teachers more familiar with the neighborhood. The thing that she suggested is possibly trying to set up outreach to combine the outreaches that neighborhood service centers do anyways with getting teachers out into the neighborhood, because the neighborhood service centers will pick a 1 or 2 block area in the city, and they'll have the police van there. They'll probably try to get the mounted police, the guys on the horses there, and get some of the various agencies, code enforcement and so forth, to be there so that people can ask questions and know where to go when they need help with this or that. So it's a way to, get more introduced to the community, and this might be an opportunity if if a school is trying to recruit more kids for kindergarten or first grade, you could go into this neighborhood that's near your school and be able to go door to door with people that are doing this for a variety of opportunities that the neighborhood service center brings. And also we need to figure out, she also offered to have a welcome breakfast for teachers when they come back in the early fall. I don't know if we can work that in with the Superintendents Conference Day. I was hoping to come out of the meeting we had today with the superintendents with some idea of can we piggyback this, because last year at least all the teachers got together in one location, right?
Well, yeah.
I haven't heard feedback from that, but
Oh, it was wonderful.
it was wonderful.
Yes.
Would a nice breakfast have been helpful, or is that not?
Well, it depends on what time they want to start it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if it starts at 9, where would the breakfast be? It would have to start pretty early. I mean, our superintendent's conference day.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the start time of that. Logistically, we have to figure it out.
Yeah, that's the thing that drove me to thinking that doing it on Superintendent's Conference Day would be the one time that you get all the teachers in one
Right.
place, assuming they do it the same way this year, because I think in previous years they
We've
did
had to
it
go
in the
places.
schools. Yeah.
and-
John, could they do something like when new teachers are hired through HR, have like a welcome to Rochester packet as part of what they give out to them, something like that?
Now, what do they do with new teachers right now?
They
I don't
call
know.
you the day before school
Yeah.
starts.
Do you
Yeah.
know where school such and such
Yeah,
is?
be
You're
there.
working there.
Yeah.
Friends who are teachers.
I mean, they do have a new teacher, I know the union puts on a new teacher orientation, but I don't know what the district does. So, this is Tammy Hunt.
You work for
Very.
Yeah, I'm a teacher. Yeah.
but you're not a new teacher.
No, I'm not a new
No,
teacher.
she's been
I haven't
there
been a
a
new
while.
teacher for a very long time. So, the union does, some training and gives them information of, I'm not aware of the city, of the district doing too much.
Okay.
What does the district do for new teachers, like orientation? I know.
This is Terry Hahn, who?
Tammy Han.
Tammy Hahn, okay.
It's been a long time.
I know.
I don't really know. It's bad. I know that there's like a week-long thing that they do.
Voluntary thing, and figuring out how best to do it so that it doesn't feel to a teacher, old or new, that they're having it shoved down their throat.
I know.
And, you know, that it's an opportunity. Well, anyways,
And I don't think teachers are opposed to doing all that extra stuff. You know, like I wouldn't be opposed to it, but it's a long, long school day.
Yeah.
But it's changing.
So, no, I'm just talking about, I don't care what the hours are. It's a long day because, you know, dealing with the academics, the behaviors, the multitude of things. So I know that when I get to go home, I want to go home. I don't want to go do something, you know. So on a weekday, that's hard, you know. I mean, I get to work at 6:30 in the morning. School doesn't start till 9 because I like to get my stuff done so that I can leave. I don't usually do it, but so I can leave right after work. So it's just a wicked long day.
It might be really nice to, you know, touch base with your friend here and get a feel, and then try to perhaps have her talk with Daisy Algerin and start looking at how can we get these two groups to figure out some way of pulling something together that makes everybody happy and that advances the cause of making things better in our schools.
Well, it's great to have a teacher here.
Oh yeah, I mean that.
I mean, if we had one or two every meeting, that would be ideal.
Ideal, yeah, for sure. You know, I was I forget who I was trading letters with a few days ago, but I sent the minutes from our meeting that we had at the YMCA there with all the teachers from 44 coming. Were you there at that one back in August?
Oh no, I wasn't on the email list then.
2013
I
or
remember
something
that.
like that. You were there? Yeah, that's right. And we had this fantastic meeting. We'd been trying to get parents from 44 because 44 had gotten on the chopping block, and it's hard to really work up a head of steam to save a school if you don't have anybody from the school there.
Yeah.
And I was able to get Mary Adams to get me the name of Baratini or one of the teachers.
Valerie Baratini.
Valerie Baratini. And I called her, and she said she'd spread the word around, and we had, I think it's 7 or 8 teachers show up. Didn't get any parents, but you know, it was great. We had this lively discussion about what the impact would be on the kids, and I was hoping to see that same energy transferred to the next meeting, which we had over at Carlson Commons. We were trying to find out what's the best place to hold these things, and no teachers, but we had 2 school chiefs, the principal and the assistant principal from 44 show up. And they were very nice. We had Ray Giamartino, who was at the time chief in charge of schools that were in trouble, and you guys had gotten into receivership right about that time. And we had Pennyman or something.
Rochester too before, I think.
Yeah, he was.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? And we had the chief in charge of the Southern District. The Rosa was the principal.
Oh, Rick DeRose.
DeRose, and so anyways, we had a nice meeting, but you know, you kind of, I'm guessing that the teachers may have been told not to show up at these things. I don't know.
I know, well, I am only speaking for myself because I was at that one meeting where we all came. I do read your minutes every time you send them because I'm on your email list.
Mm-hmm.
But my personal problem is that I have children who are in sports, and
Sure.
I'm either picking up from games or practices. So I want to be here, but physically, I can't cut myself into places and be in two places at
Sure.
one time.
Yeah.
So, but I do read your notes, your emails, and I click on all your little links that you send out. And I do.
Hug that woman right next to you there who takes these minutes.
Well, I click on all of them, so I do. I faithfully read them every month or every time you email me, and I do. I read them all, and I'm like, wonder what that is, because there's this, and I'm like,
Well, thank you, because it's nice to know that somebody reads them.
Especially nice for me to.
I do. I'm not. I click on every link.
She does read them all.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't know. Was there any repercussion from
No.
No? Good. Good. That's.
Well, but there was. I mean, from that one time, I feel like it did help our school and save our school, but I just feel like.
Oh, I thought you meant negative repercussions.
Negative repercussion, yeah.
No, actually, no.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear
they
that.
They want teachers to be active in the community.
That's good, because
But the problem with us is that we have had several principals. So,
No, we've had numerous. Sholanda's going to be our 19th principal since I've been there.
At 44?
How many years is that?
19.
I think
Isn't that what we just counted it
You
the
and
other day?
Leslie, but you and Leslie have been there longer than
Well, I've been there since 95.
Yeah.
So since 1995, 19 principals.
That's an awful lot.
Yeah. And
As opposed to one a day, it's one a year.
Well, usually principals last, 5 years?
I don't know, because that's how
Well, I'm glad to hear.
we're in our
that-
third one this year.
Glad to hear that there wasn't any stifling of the participation, because as I was writing to this guy, I said, gee, you'd think that the administration would be kissing their feet for going out
Yeah.
into the neighborhood and being active like this, and so I'm glad to hear that there wasn't any squelching of the interaction.
So I don't have to do this because this lady will do it, right?
Yeah, I'll call Amy.
So I won't have to do it, Jen.
Okay.
She'll be much better.
I was curious, why isn't it gonna be a long day after next year? What's changing?
Oh,
Coming
'cause
out of
we're not-
receivership?
No, well, technically, we're not in receivership yet. I'm really bad with all the letter names.
Priority.
Well, they change the terminology all the time,
Yeah.
too, so, you
Like,
know,
we're,
I don't know what we
I
are.
just read it. I can't remember the letters. I'm really bad.
But it's gonna separate.
But we're not in receivership yet. We're like a step above,
Uh-huh.
but our scores haven't come out this year, so I don't know what they're determining for us. But the reason our hours are gonna change is because the district is no longer doing the extended day. So,
With the
and our-
YMCA.
So our kids go to school from 9 to 4:30 every day, even the kindergartners, which is a long day for them. And so that extra hour is called extended learning time, and it's supposed to be more of a, give them different opportunities for enrichment in that. And the district is doing away with that in most of the city schools.
Why
I don't know
are
if
they
it's all
doing
of
away?
them.
Because it's not very beneficial.
Well, that's interesting, because we were told at the set meeting that our school, number 10, had to go into extended day. That's part of the receivership plan. Even though-
Well, that might be as part of a receivership, the certain schools, but as a district, I don't even remember who the superintendent was because we go through those pretty quick too. And I'm not even trying to be funny.
You got through everything really.
Yeah, we do.
Everything.
But the money's not there. That's the bottom line.
And they're getting rid of AmeriCorps.
Wait, what? Where?
We were
The
just told
district's
that
getting rid of
today.
AmeriCorps.
Totally?
Yeah.
Unless
Getting
certain
rid of
schools
it?
can apply for
Oh,
it,
she
but
didn't-
yeah, she did say that. Certain schools can
Oh,
apply
yeah, you can
for that.
apply.
But as a whole, the district is not gonna be putting those people
Yeah.
into the schools to
Contract
help.
with-
Yeah,
Were they
Yeah.
not helpful?
I thought they were. I liked them. They came in my room. I liked them.
So this is all budget driven?
Yeah.
I would say yes, but I'm not privy to those discussions.
So I thought AmeriCorps wasn't had nothing to do with the city's school district budget.
Well,
I
this
don't
girl,
think
this
they're
AmeriCorps
gonna
worker
defend
made it sound like it was a budget thing. Like the city didn't want to pay for that anymore.
It's a city budget issue, perhaps.
I meant, well, I mean the city, I mean the district.
Mhm. Oh, okay.
When I
mean the
say the
school
city,
district.
yeah.
They didn't
Yeah.
want to pay for it.
Or they can't pay for it, I don't know what the word is. But they're not going to.
Well, I would think the newspaper should follow through on this. Don't you think?
Well, I would love to have AmeriCorps still in our school, but
I find them helpful.
I know. I mean, unfortunately, we're just lowly teachers. We don't have any say in anything.
But I don't think teachers are lowly. I think they're way up there.
Well, I don't think they're lowly either, but nationally, we're just lowly
But even in the-
teachers.
I mean, when you look at the people who make the decisions, we're always told what we have to do. We don't
Yeah.
always get to participate. And,
No, we never get to participate.
well, there's some opportunity, but they make their, you know.
The decision is made long before they give us input.
The administration does it.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's too bad.
let's see, the only other thing we haven't touched on is we went in and talked with lovely Warren back on the 9th, I think it was, or the 11th, I guess. Primarily pushing for local busing, and it sounded like it wasn't something that had been high on her radar. She wasn't against it. She kind of suggested that we get the school district to look at paying for it out of money they have in their budget.
She wanted to school us in terms of how you deal with arguing. Basically, that came up.
Yeah.
Could you say that again?
Tell me again, John.
Took us to school in terms of how to interact with Albany.
Oh,
So don't go by yourself, don't go by this is your priority. You have to go to the agency that's affected, in this case, the school board, school district. That's their top or second top agenda or priority. Then you've got a chance of getting people's attention and getting it through.
If you take the school district, Albany will listen. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, the school district is going to go and present their priorities, and if local busing is one of the high priorities, then they'll pay more attention to it.
Oh, so we have to go with the local school district.
Yeah, and they've pretty much adopted, that's what they want to do.
Mhm.
The question is what shade of it you want to do or not do. And what was interesting in today's paper was Greece going to a K-2 school for the whole district.
In today's paper?
Yeah.
They're having a K-2 school and then 3 through 6, or?
Yeah.
Oh.
So they will be local school, neighborhood schools. But the other one won't, and it was sort of a usage of the buildings.
They have a number of small elementary schools that traditionally have them K2.
Can you speak up a little?
Sure, they have a number of schools that have traditionally been K2 because they're small elementary schools, and then they feed to a 3 to 5 model, and then the middle school. So they already have that in a number of their locations. They already have buildings set up for that. So this is just expanding it to district-wide, I think.
They're
But if you look
expanding
at
the
it-
system in
Yes.
Greece.
That's what John's alluding to.
To look
Just
at it in
John's
terms
saying.
of here's the process they use for cutting that in and changing things is what I'm looking at in terms of looking at local busing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because many of the kids already walk to the K2 schools,
Mhm.
because those are neighborhood schools. They've been there since the 60s and 70s. So those are generally the ones that kids are walking to in Greece because they're set up so you don't have to cross major roads or things like that. So they already have that infrastructure.
Which is good, right?
Yeah.
It's good if you want to expand that model.
Would you have another model in mind?
There are so many different models on how you can do elementary K through 8, K through 12, K through. So it really depends on what's important to the local people.
You know, I don't think I even met you.
Yeah, I'm Dr. DeMarle. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to know you. You're a doctor of what?
Education.
Good. And D'Amato?
DeMarle.
Tomorrow.
D-E.
M-A-R-L-E.
On the middle block of Melrose.
And you work down in City Hall or somewhere?
No, I'm in private practice. I work with school districts all throughout New York State and getting my patients what they need.
The whole state?
Mostly Western New York.
And what do you do for them?
I tell them how they have to spend money on my kids with learning disabilities and autism and ADHD and obsessive compulsive disorder and all those things, and then I make them do it.
You're not a graduate of Buffalo State.
No.
Because they had a great program there.
No, didn't go there. So anyways, for Greece, they already have that infrastructure, so it's just, for them, it's just expanding that infrastructure.
This is in Greece.
In Greece. Going off of what John said.
Yeah, I think it's just worthwhile looking at in terms of the process, not necessarily the exact thing, but how do they cut it in? How do they plan to cut it in? How much communication went on?
When it
Definitely
started
save
in
my
the 19...
No. They're starting next year.
But it was already in place, she said.
In some schools.
And some schools had K2. There's a bunch of little schools and
Yep.
other things. They're going to bus everybody to the K2.
They're not going to bus them after...
They're going to bus.
And they've been walking in the past?
Some have been walking,
But how would that be a model for us?
No, the model in terms of how did they do it. So how did they put together a plan? They had the plan, checkpoints in it, communication plan. Okay, that's what I meant. Not for the specifics of it, but just for the generalization of how they run the program.
So and then we could... Do we want someone to come here and explain that?
I don't think so. We've got the today when we went in and talked to the superintendents, we got to meet with Long Guard and Terry Dade, the new guy, because we wanted to get some continuity. So it was awfully nice to have Dan introduce us, and Dan Loengard and Linda Samuz, who is his administrative assistant and was the interim superintendent the last time when Dan had a stroke there. They're all in favor of getting local busing because in Rochester, as much as we'd like all the kids to walk and get good exercise, there's too much fear about getting them on the streets. Some of it legit, some of it just, maybe a little blown out of proportion. But until you get enough of a concentration of children in the neighborhood of a school, you can't even set up a walking school bus because they're scattered all over the place. So the first step is get local busing so you can get a concentration of kids from the neighborhood in the neighborhood schools. And then you can look at possibly, well, first of all, on their own, at some point they're going to think they're big enough to walk. And, there may be some long-term savings just because not everybody's going to walk. But when we talked with them, I think we kicked around the possibility of trying to at least maybe this year, and we need to talk with them some more, this year perhaps trying to have the schools that have signed up for being community schools, the 10 receivership schools, I think have all signed up to be community schools. I'm not sure how aware they are of what they're biting into, because when in 2012 when we had Louis Aponte and Ralph Spezio come here and tell us what they were doing at 17.
What school are we talking about?
44.
Oh, 44.
Yeah, in a study that was done back in 2013, they came up with the numbers that if you got 25% of the kids that are getting bused all over creation today buy in to being bused locally, you'd break even. And if you got up to 3/4 of the kids opting to be bused locally, you'd save about $4 million a year.
And what year was that study?
That was, I think, 212. It doesn't say on here, but from what Mary Adams, who hunted this up for me, said she thought it was 2012, 2013, somewhere around there.
Can we put that in the minutes?
Yeah, we've been pushing this for.
No, I mean the figures.
Oh yeah, we can.
How much money we'd save?
Yeah, the net annual saving for 75% kids choose to go to their neighborhood school would be $4,133,000.
I mean, I think that would get the attention of the locals.
Yeah, the question, of course, always is, do we believe the figures because they're estimates made by somebody who was. But hopefully, Mike Schmidt will have some harder figures from what he's doing now. One of the things that they have been doing this year and that we need to think about in terms of trying to get local busing to, for community schools is they set up all the routes for kids that are coming from all over. So if they're more than 1.5 miles away, figure out how do you bus them to school 44 or school 16 or whatever. So they've got all these bus routes coming into that school. And then once they've got that set up, which is kind of like first day of school or something, you can start looking at filling the buses because they aren't full, so they can start looking at how many kindergartners can we pick up from inside this 1.5 mile circle from the school, how many first graders and second graders, and they fill up the buses starting with the earliest grade up.
Who does all this, John?
Mike Schmidt and his crew of wizards at reading whatever data sets that they have.
Really hard.
That is just
That's
I mean,
remarkable.
Not a job I would want.
And they, what did he say last time he was here? About 3/4? They have some tremendous percentage of kids that change addresses during the course of the year.
30%.
And the thing is that every time they change address, some kids are going to be missing class because the bus isn't going to quite.
Takes 5 days.
Yeah, it takes 5 days. So you're building failure into the system by having to have them, bused from across town. At least if they were being bused from and stayed near the school, you could walk for a week, if you had to, or the parents could walk them. So anyways, we have 2 studies which are on location 19 somewhere, but I'll...
The studies are? The whole study?
Yeah, these.
You said location 19?
Location19.org.
It's a webpage.
It's a webpage where we put all the information that we've got here. Everything that's been sent out to you for the past 7 years that we've been doing this is documented in one of the groups there, so you can find all this. So the
Now, Lovely also had a solution sheet for the district's budget. Said, here's 2 items where this is probably not real firm spending in here. And I didn't have the nerve to say, just bring out your books and we'll look through it for more.
I mean, she told you what she could thought.
That Dan could take out of his budget. Here's where I can find $5 million or something. And anytime you have a big budget, you can squirrel away lots of money.
Do you recall what she pointed out?
There were things sort of on discretionary spend but I
Spread this around.
I wouldn't trust myself with having a real answer.
Did you make notes?
Not good enough.
Nuts. Next time, John, make notes for us.
Yeah, the flyer that's going around is an excerpt from the Rochester 2034, which is the, I don't know if I've got a copy of it here or not. But anyways, the city put together a plan for where things should be in 2034, and John found the part about education, and I pulled it out here so it's on this double-sided sheet. This is what, their plans long-term, and it sounds like they plagiarized something that we've written in the last few years, because it's exactly the things that we're...
They plagiarized.
No.
Shocking.
They listen to us. That's another way of saying it. They listen to a lot of the things we've been saying and that other people have been saying too. But all of this, we couldn't have written it better ourselves if we tried. Mm-hmm. And, they get on to talking about the 1.5 mile reimbursement issue and how that plays into what's going on, the fact that parents are, using the buses kind of as a babysitting factor, but, a necessary one so that they can have their child be safe, and all these factors that we have to take into account as we look at changing anything.
Well, I think what would sell the public is the funding. The less funding.
So I don't know if it's really going to be less funding, because when the funding that you save from transportation, you're definitely going to have to put that into those buildings, because the buildings have to be equivalent to the other buildings. I live on Arnett here. I live right down the street from 16, but I refused to put my daughters in there because they had a .2 art teacher, a .3 music teacher, and I wanted my kids to have access to everything, so my kids end up going down the street a little further
What's a
to
.2
STEM
or a
school.
.3?
That means not full time.
2/10 at a time.
Yeah, so you have to have the schools, so you're gonna have to use that funding to staff the schools, man. People is not sending their kids to, I don't care if it's next door, they're not sending their kids there. So I don't know about how much saving. The saving would have to, the funds probably would need to be refocused on. That's just in my mind. I may be wrong.
Yeah, and the thing to keep in mind, we want to save money, because that money we're paying it in taxes one way or the other, whether it's local or state or federal.
Right.
But that money, if we save $60 million, it used to be around 66 million. Today they were talking around close to 100 million when we were talking to the superintendent. So apparently the cost has gone up, but that doesn't mean that when you get rid of busing that it automatically comes into the city, because that's reimbursement money that we get from the state. So if we spend 66 million, we'll get 60 million back, and but we aren't. If we didn't spend it, we wouldn't get it. We wouldn't get any of it back. So it's not an automatic. We have it more to spend for teaching, although as a state we would have more available for teaching. Of course, Rochester has an unusually large use of busing compared to a lot of the other cities from what we've been
That would
told.
also sell the people, I would think, if Rochester is using most of their money for busing, riding around the city on a yellow bus.
I think people care, my personal opinion, that they care really much more about not what it costs, what's happening to their children, what are their children going to get out of it. I think that's what people
I
care.
agree.
I think they really care about that more than anything else.
But if you don't have kids in the school, that's probably where
That's a different story
Yeah.
entirely, and it depends on the person. And you can't account for how human beings react. It's very unfortunate. I've had people, when I try to get them interested in this, say, why would I care about that? My kid, he's graduated, he's here, he's there.
He's in college or something.
But I think people need to care in the city because in my neighborhood, there used to be the happy sounds of children playing, and as time went on, that diminished. And now, the only families with children are people that can't afford to leave, or people that are extremely committed to staying and, being part of the city school district, or a lot of them actually, their kids live in the city but get scholarships or assistance to go to the private schools. But the average family, the kid hits a certain age, boom.
They're out of
If
state.
they own the house is on the market. If they're renting, they're gone. And that is so sad, because you cannot have a diverse neighborhood and a thriving city if you just got an aging out population. You have to have
Young one.
You have to have all kinds of diversity, including age diversity. You can't have it like that. And the reason people say, at least in my neighborhood, the reason they're leaving is always the city school district.
Yeah, and I
And
remember.
as time goes on, whether that's a valid reason or an urban legend, people have heard it so much that the image of the district is obviously harmed by them.
I just don't buy into that. That's what they say. But if you could leave Rochester, everybody talks about the statistic they're talking about is the poverty here in the city.
Yeah.
In the country, is the most highlighted thing is about the poverty issue we have here. But for some reason, it doesn't get talked about. The lack of jobs around here on Hudson Avenue, on Thurston, this unemployment is up on Thurston, not down. And on Joseph, unemployment is up. This is what affects the school. This is all this is the school has to breathe, and this doesn't allow the school to breathe. People are working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. They really are. So they can't go into the school building like me on a daily basis. They can't go in there hardly at all. And then sometimes they're not welcome. There's a lot of factors, but for some reason it's always highlighted that it's the schools.
No, that was one of the things. If you didn't catch it, and I need to listen to it again myself, Evan Dawson had a program on a week or so ago, and I sent out that in both of the mailings that I sent out, a link to that podcast. But they had, I think, Klein from Klein Steel was there.
Oh, really?
And we had Mercedes Felon from Citizens Action, and there were 3 or 4 people that are involved with education, and they were referring to a study that Obama had highlighted recently, where this well-to-do person who'd been fighting to help education for some time was coming to the conclusion that you really can't just be fighting for the schools, you have to be fighting for the whole community because it's all systemic. The amount of systemic racism that has basically driven the white community out to the burbs, and if you look at what was done with highways in Rochester, it split up neighborhoods, and
Which highways do? Oh,
490, 390, you know, all these,
The outer loop, the inner loop.
the outer loop, the inner loop, 490 going through. You used to have to go out through the various arteries, and there were stores all along those, and people would stop and do some shopping on the way home. And all that dried up, so you had a whole bunch of local jobs disappear because of the way the city and the state chose to, you know, do urban renewal, which was
Back in the 60s.
which was urban destruction, really, and just added to the separation that you were building highways so that the people who lived in the burbs could come in here and work in the city if that's where they needed to go, but wouldn't have to stop along the way, you know. So those things, you know, you have to work at the whole system, and that's one of the things that I think gives you hope when you look at community schools. You really, you know, you're bringing services into the school, because one of the distinguishing things is supposed to be wraparound services, so you get maybe a health clinic and some dentistry and various people that can help from different agencies that are there, and parents that, you know, you try, if you can get enough local student participation in the school so that the parents from that neighborhood can go in. Yes.
So, I'm not sure where we are in the agenda.
Yeah, we're,
So I have to leave, and I had a couple items. that I
Okay.
was bringing in.
you have the floor, sir.
Congratulations, Ricardo.
Yeah.
I voted for two school board members. You were one of them. So,
Thank you.
in terms of earlier we talked about power and the idea of, you know, bringing associations of the group going to talk to our legislatures and those things.
Sorry, I don't.
So earlier we talked about power and how to influence groups. So there's 3 ways you influence groups. 1, you play golf together. I don't play golf. 2, you hit them legally. 3, you associate with the grassroots. You use the grassroots to put pressure on power.
What is all this in connection with?
How do we get the district and the city and the state to do what we need them to do? So when you guys are meeting with the superintendents, that's like playing golf. You guys have relationships. This committee has relationships with board members. That's always to kind of influence
You mean school board members?
a school board, city council, our state reps, having some of our state representatives, having Mike Rosenhofer show up at a meeting. He loves to give money to this library to help put pressure on them on what we need them to do for us. Second, so we should consider getting t-shirts. So meaning John and John are well known. When you guys walk into a meeting, people pay attention. There are other members of this committee. Let's say I showed up or you showed up, or you showed up, or you showed up. At a school board meeting, if we had a shirt that said Southwest Education Committee,
We support the Johns.
we support our jobs. that carries.
Of the night.
Then that carries the message. If you show up, if you're the only person who shows up, you know, when you go to school board meetings, you know, when a school there's something going on, the school shows up, they all have their shirts on, the kids have their shirts on, and then they're never at the next meeting. But they all show up. It's very noticeable because you just look at the audience and see which school is there and what they're advocating for. So having lanyards or shirts or something, so for in a march or walk.
Would hats do?
Hats can certainly work, but you have to take your hat off if you're at a meeting. So just a thought, and to say, this is the harder part, you know, what are the 3 major things we advocate for as a
We're
committee?
wanting the end of the busing.
That's one. So on your shirt,
Community
Southwest
schools,
Education
local
Committee, what would it be? So anybody looking at it would know what you're talking about. That way you guys, if you're not in a meeting and somebody else in the committee is, then the school board member or whoever says, oh yeah, there's somebody from Southwest. I better remember that they're here wanting to do that. And the last, so that was 2, and the last
What
one.
was the second one?
The first one was power.
How
To influence people. The second one was tying in, having some type of shirt in terms of how do we influence people. And the third one related to the conversation we were just having, whether it's poverty or schools.
Poverty.
What I know is that when there are people looking to decide if they want to go to schools, they're looking for people in the neighborhood who have their kids at that school. They're looking to talk to another parent that says, hey, my kid's at that school. I mean, yes, they want to go tour, they want to talk to the
We
principal.
we have a neighborhood school. I have no idea who the kids are or where they live.
Right. So, but the people in the neighborhood want to know, they want a personal connection with one, and the picky ones, 2 or 3 different people. They'll go have dinner with them and say, tell us about the school. Is it good or bad? I was just reading a great book. It says, how many times in a movie have you seen a woman get asked to be married and you know what she's supposed to say? How many times have you ever seen a person get asked to be married in a movie and say no? So we have all kinds of ways that show us how to do one thing, move out of the city, and very few exemplars of my kid's in the school. My kid's successful. My kid just graduated. My kid got into soda. My kid got into school without walls. My kid got into this charter school in the city. How do you do that?
Social media.
Well, social media is great, but you're not going to ask some of those questions and look at people in the eye and tell if they're telling you the truth or not.
That is true.
So having even meetings here is part of this committee where people can say, hey, I got my kid into the preschool program at 16. This is how I did it. I got my kid into this program. This is how I did it. So other people could come and hear from people who've actually done it recently. I mean, I did it, but that was quite a while ago. So they can hear from other people. And obviously they want to hear from administrators and things like that. But just as we're trying to figure out on your agenda to talk to Ralph Spezio's, how did you guys do it? Parents in the neighborhood are more willing to try our local schools if they have connections with people in our local schools. Families that, and I know them all. In my neighborhood, there's a whole bunch of middle class people, U of R people who are actually staying because they're all within 2 or 3 blocks of each other. They've all had dinner together and asked questions of each other. And there's this social piece to say, hey, it's okay to have your kids in this school.
You know what would be really nice is you were talking, I don't know how it would even be feasible, but if there couldn't be like, when you go register your child for school, I don't care what grade it's at, this community person would be, now that you've registered, this is the principal and the contact information. Here are
To get the enrollment of K through 2 locally, they walk the streets.
It's a great way to do it.
And so there's your social contact.
who walked the streets.
The principal,
Teacher and
some of the
principal.
teachers.
Oh, really?
They went out, recruiting in the community. They got their local numbers from 22 up to 76 or 78%.
Really great.
Yeah, 70%.
And that
They
just
reached
ballooned the
out.
number of parents who took part in the school because now they were in
Right.
the neighborhood.
Just by walking the streets from door to door?
Yeah, going and recruiting locally. The thing, of course, that is the problem then is you need a principal and you need teachers who are willing to interact with those parents, and you need to have training for the parents so that, these are the parents that for many years have just come in to blow off steam when something really got out of control. Now we're trying to have them be part of the fabric of the school. There's a whole re-education effort there.
But it's a big commitment to do
Yeah.
that. So probably not all principals are willing to do that.
But there's lots of ways on a ground level. And Ricardo, this actually, that idea came from, it's just a big study where they were looking at new people moving into the city, and they were getting into bad housing deals, and then they kind of worked with one family, and everybody's like, hey, you bought a house? Yeah, we bought a house. How did you buy a house? Well, let's have a meeting. I'll tell you how I bought my house. And suddenly all these people who had been spending money on these expensive rents were all saving money to buy their houses, and then house ownership in that population went because they did some, hey, we don't need people to come in and teach us how to do this. Somebody already did it here. They can teach us how to do it. And it worked. I gotta go.
Thank you very much for
Thank you
stopping
for your
by.
ideas.
Yeah,
Something to think about.
and,
Just one other thing, on the meeting with superintendent,
yes,
because he talked about us going out and glomming on to other organizations.
Like what? Which one?
Center for Youth.
Center for Youth?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's other ones.
What-
Churches. There's all sorts of organizations out there.
Okay.
Do we want to be connected with all of them or none of them, and what it go? The other thing to be aware of is understand the politics. So don't say, I'm going to work with Mary, and oh, by the way, she can't stand Bill. You know, and so you can't mix those two together. Or it happens with Robach and Gant, you know, for example, or Gant and Harry Bronson.
yeah.
So you can't sort of expect those two to say, I'm real excited, I got Gant to go along with this, and then Harry will probably change his mind a little bit. But you just have to be aware of that and watch out for it. And also, when you learn about those and you know that they're going on, feed that back to Dave,
The new
the
superintendent.
new superintendent, so he doesn't step into something that he doesn't want to step into.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing just how aware of the local alliances between various people that, you know, Dan Loengard was, even though he's only been here for six months.
Oh,
or so.
really?
Yeah, I'm sure he's gotten a briefing from everybody at central office.
But still.
But, you know, that's one of the things that we need to deal with. And I'm sure you'll be finding all sorts of different alliances on the school board. Hopefully they'll all be friendly ones this coming year, but so what else did we have?
We're down to elections.
Down to elections. Well,
I mean, according to the agenda.
we're only
I think
there.
we're at 5. I think there's somebody
We skipped all the other.
Here's the people who won, by the way, if you want
Oh,
to pass
great.
that around.
Yes.
One of them you may recognize right over there.
Here. Great. Did you? Where did you get that?
Oh, that was in a DNC article. Justin Murphy. Somebody said they hadn't seen anything in the DNC. It was online, but
Yeah.
it
know.
must
He
have
did
been in the
make the
paper.
printed version.
Well, that's crazy. I mean,
What?
not you're
Those
crazy,
were
but I
actually in the
mean,
mail. Those actually got sent out in the mail. That's,
This?
yeah. That happens to be all of RTA's endorsement. Every
No,
single
that one was
It's called
from the
Palm.
paper from this morning.
Palm
That
was-
Justin Murphy reported who won.
Palm is those 4 people though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
Palm is.
but that was not in the print edition.
No.
I mean, that's nuts, I think.
No, no, if it's
No, no.
printing, you have to do it by midnight or you don't get it out.
Yeah, this was the
Well,
one
you
that
know,
you're
we had
referring to.
elections, John, for years without any computers. And we always knew in the morning who won.
Oh, Palm, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
think that's a really
Yeah.
disgrace. I might write a letter to the editor.
Okay.
I mean, you think they were like,
Same
I don't, even city newspaper didn't have it in.
Oh, but I stayed up to watch the election results.
Not everybody does that anymore.
I know, I did.
You stayed up to watch the election?
Yeah, to see who won. I was curious.
So did I.
Oh, I'm sure you.
It's really, really,
I mean, you know, I went and bought a paper on purpose to
Not
get
good.
see who it was. Nothing.
Oh, I'm not, I don't do papers anymore.
But you don't go and get a paper though.
no,
Well, some of us still do.
no papers, no home phone.
I still
You
have a
still
home
got a home
phone.
phone?
I still have a home phone.
Yeah, on the question of the number 3 there was a change besides 44, which is a new principal, also 16. Carla Roberts is leaving as of the end of this month.
These are staff changes.
And what's her name? The assistant principal is taking over.
Who is
Carl
that?
Roberts
Huh?
It's gone.
Roberts is gone.
from
And Lisa-
16.
16.
And
Lisa.
Garrett.
Yeah, Garrett. Yeah, Garrett.
So who's going to be the
The
principal?
assistant
Garrett,
principal
isn't
is
it? Oh,
Garrow.
Garrett.
Garrow.
yeah.
I said Garrett
But
because
I
of
think
Garrett.
she's married, is that, because that's her maiden name. Is that what she's going by?
I'm
Lisa
not
Garrett?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's what she went with when she was
Yeah.
vice principal, yeah.
She,
Okay.
you know, from what interaction I've had with her, she seems pretty good. Probably a little more responsive than Carla was, but
Why did Carla leave?
there seem to be problems between a number of people and her. I'm not sure just what all, but certainly when I look at all the efforts we've made for the last year to try to have 16 come back in as a neighborhood school, you know, there was, and this is true for your school also, if you want to get involved with the 19th Ward Community Association, we'll get them to give you some free memberships so that the main thing it gets you is on the mailing list. But that's important. If you're dealing with parents in the neighborhood, there would be nothing better for the school to see the neighborhood association grow and be stronger to help the school out. So, you know, it's people pulling each other up by their bootstraps is what we're trying to get happen here. And we didn't get a single taker on free membership for teachers at the convention. We had the convention at School 16. There weren't too many. There were 1 or 2 teachers there who live in the neighborhood, but you know, there are just a lot of things that you think, wow, if they really, you know, want to see a community school doing something with this part of the community would be a big plus. But then we didn't hear too much about it until the receivership requirement kind of pushed having a community school, you know, onto their list of things to do. So,
Well, John, are they going to do that again? Another year?
oh yeah, I think we can. I can't speak for the neighborhood association, but they've been, you know, it's in their interest to build these relationships with the schools and with teachers. And,
You would contact them to get us involved?
yeah,
Sign us up.
okay. The other thing we have to work hard at is getting parent coordinators at the schools to really have number one parent coordinating on their agenda rather than being under the thumb of the principal. You know, that all the principals who are listening to this, that's the impression I get from 7 years now of sitting at these
What's
meetings.
the point in having a parent coordinator if she doesn't coordinate?
Well, she's coordinating, but you know, you'd think
The
that
liaison, are you talking about the
parent liaison, yeah. You know, you would think that they would really be at these meetings You know,
Did we ever invite them?
oh yeah, we have. And they've come sometimes, you know, and sometimes you'll get a teacher or a principal or parent coordinator to agree to this or that, and then nothing happens, you know. So and I understand that all these people are up to here and things you have to do today, right now, because there's a class of kids that are going to explode if things don't happen right then and there. But it makes it tough sometimes to keep.
Do you think
Interest
maybe
on-
we should write out, or maybe we already did, 5 points that we want to cover this year and just concentrate on those 5 points?
Yeah, we can do that. One of them is getting Albany to sign off come next spring, and we should be, you know, touching base with all the state assembly and senate folks, and having some sit-downs, try to get them to meetings like this, or go to Albany, or they have local offices. We really have to be.
Who are these, the local people here?
Yeah,
You mean the politicians?
Yeah.
politicians, state assembly and state senate, and just
Well,
get,
I mean, all we need is the city directory.
No, we've got their address.
we've got their addresses.
All we need to do is get a newscaster.
Yeah, here's
Someone does.
you know, their addresses are at the bottom there. That's part of, that's just a copy of the petition that we had on. We had an online petition, and we were handing that out at Square Fair to people who came by. But getting a hold of the people on that list, and you know, would be a. You can take that with you if you want, and pass it around to
Yeah,
everybody. You know.
share it.
Do you have more copies?
Yeah.
All right. John, are we going to get to summer staffing?
Yes, you've been researching that, right?
I spent, well, I don't know, a better part of a week, and at the end of the week, I was so discouraged, you know, and I thought, this city has changed so much that, you know,
Just the man we need here. Here's the man that is going to.
you went to Sebring.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, we rewarded the students for taking their sixth graders when they're all done.
Is that still going?
Yeah, it's going good. Sorry, I had to drop somebody off. How you doing, man?
Doing right.
Shall I continue?
Sure.
So, we have, in most of the schools in the city, I didn't research all the schools, there is a playground, but it is not used, or it is used infrequently, because I think people are afraid to go down there. They might get mugged or whatever in the process.
Are you saying to the the schools in the playgrounds in the schools?
Yeah.
Or in the park.
Schoolyard.
That's
Or the
cool.
parks?
No, not the parks, no. Like Genesee Valley Park is too far away.
Right.
Now, what's the situation with your playground at School 29, Joe?
Well, we were supposed to have facilities modernization, but that's on hold. So when we were supposed to leave our school in 2020 and go to Freddie Thomas, and then when we came back, they didn't let us build a playground temporarily because they have to use the whole property to redo a school, so their playground would be in the way. So we put it on hold. When we come back in 2021, all the money we were raising or the people we had reached out to, we were going to have a fully inclusive playground. The problem with having people use a school playground is you don't want to deny it, but they have to do a building permit or something like that where they have
Liability.
adults who are supervising them.
No, that's not how they used to do it.
Well, I know, but nowadays everything's about liability and
Yeah.
you know, all that stuff, lawsuits. So you really have to be careful. But I'm not saying we can't do that. You know, there could be a building permit done, and they can come in there, and we can open it. It's going to be a fully inclusive playground. Our school has 36% are still in their students with disabilities, so it's going to be wheelchair accessible and the whole 9 yards. So that's gonna be, it was supposed to be done by 2021 when we came back to our school, but now with the facilities modernization phase 3 on hold, it's not even gonna be activated till the middle of next year. That might be further down the road, but they wouldn't let the city, I thought I'd try to do it independently, you know, I tried to just go out and do it because we have a lot of benefactors. But then you still gotta work through the city school district planning department, so they put a kibosh on until after the modernization.
Mhm.
Well, this was not, okay, this was run by City Rec.
Okay,
All the City Rec staffed all the playgrounds in the summer.
okay,
And somehow they worked that out with the schools. I worked on the playground as a worker.
right.
But the school system had set that up with City Rec. And I don't know why they still couldn't do that.
That's fine, if there's a person supervising the playground.
That's right.
All I asked for our school, and once we build our playground, will be a building permit. That's all, a responsible adult, and we trust our neighborhood, you know, a responsible adult person would be there watching the children.
No, there
let
were
you-
4 adults at each
Oh,
school.
that sounds staff.
And they were, you know,
Okay.
it was open from 9 in the morning till 9 at night, if you believe that.
Mhm.
Sometimes they closed it earlier, like around 7.
Right.
But it was accessible to everybody in the neighborhood, and it was supervised.
Good.
So why is the facility, the modernization money on hold?
What was voted down, wasn't it? It was in the paper that the state legislators didn't approve it by the end of the session, right?
Yeah.
And now everybody's pointing the finger at everybody else who's to blame for it.
Sounds like there was, some of the politics we were talking about earlier
Came to life.
came to life and didn't get it signed in time for this session, so here we are waiting
Everybody's blaming
6 more
somebody else.
months to, or a year until, I remember for phase 2, they passed it in the summer, but it was darn close to winter before the governor got around to signing it. It's just
Very frustrating.
very frustrating.
Well,
And that's who we want to take over the schools?
I don't think so. But anyways, and then they built out these other things, what do you call them?
Rec centers?
These rec centers,
Mm-hmm.
which didn't exist.
Well, that may be, the money may have gotten relocated to those. Now, in the schools, from what I've heard, all the swimming pools are going to be accessible in the school.
All summer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean, you're really
Madison
kidding?
always has.
No?
That's
But it hasn't always
interesting.
been.
It's open this summer.
Yeah, this summer.
Last summer. Madison.
Madison and,
It's called Wilson Foundation.
No, it's Madison.
Okay, well,
I'm
that's
sorry.
fine. You can call it what you want.
Is this the old medicine?
Yeah, the old Madison. Wilson Foundation.
Well, the new Madison.
the new Madison.
The
yeah.
new,
The new old Madison, right, yeah. the new-
Marshall.
Well, it was called Madison when
James
they
Madison
rebuilt
School
that
of
thing, and
Excellence.
that's going to be open all summer.
Yes.
How about West High or what, Wilson?
Wilson, yeah.
Wilson should be open, isn't it?
Is Wilson open all summer too?
I think so. From what it was,
They
Mike
keep it up,
Schmidt.
but nobody's using it.
Mike Schmidt reported
It's been
that.
maintained, but all year, but nobody's using.
Which
No
one's
kids.
that?
Marshall, with 2 schools in there, 10 and 2.
10 and 2 are down at Marshall High
Yeah.
School?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's
Is there a
construction
Y
on
near there where they can try and get them
So
to
they,
do
how would they get down?
I don't think there's a Y near there.
Buses. They get bused to go to school 10, so they're just
Well,
busing
Wait,
them up
isn't
to
there one at
Marshall.
Maple all summer?
Not in the summer.
They have a staff person. for
School 10 is
school, and
down
they
on
have
Congress
for
is
gym.
closed right now for renovations,
Yeah,
and the school is moved up to Marshall until it gets
yeah, I
brought back
understand,
here
but I
in
mean-
21.
But it's not gonna be, you're not using that Marshall pool all summer.
No, haven't used it yet. They haven't used it. 10 schools been over there for a year, and they have not used it. But they maintain it, and they have a person assigned to it. That person helps out with the record gym.
But I mean, that is.
But they're
such a
not
waste of
they're
money.
not
that
teaching
job.
swimming to the kids or anything like that.
They don't have aquatics as like a class.
That's terrible. What a
Yeah.
waste of a resource.
That's exactly what it is.
That's terrible.
And the same goes out on Wilson, doesn't it?
Terrible.
I'm not sure about Wilson, but I
Maybe
do.
somebody needs to find out what's really going on there.
Well, you know the lady that said she'd find out was Miss Allmer. Okay, well, I would say, I mean, I talked with one knowledgeable person that I thought was really helpful, and I'd have to go back and get my notes. But she's Dr. So-and-so, and she's in charge of all the schools in the what you call them?
Dr. Golden.
Cecilia Golden?
I
No?
don't think, no. She wasn't a name I recognized, but,
Yeah.
and then I got away from it because,
Okay, well, as far as we know, the pools are open. Mike Schmidt, when he was here 3 meetings ago or 2 meetings ago, reported on that they would all be open for the summer.
the
And
pools in the high school?
yeah, in the high schools, junior high schools, you know, the Wilson Foundation Academy is K through 8, and then they've got early college in there also. I'm not sure how many classes of that.
Is that going to be in the newspaper? Are they going to put out a notice about all this?
I don't know.
Be on the webpage, I would think.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, but how many people, I mean, I think I keep up on some things. I never see anything like this, because I don't use the webpage, John. You know, I mean, I'm not computer literate, I know that.
They got classes here this summer.
What is it you're talking?
It's youth construction, 17 to 24-year-olds.
Oh.
That flyer you have there.
Eleanor, was that pushed out?
Oh, this one.
Does that have like an email blast? There's a
Well, we
man-
don't send it to the city because they're usually kids who have graduated
Okay.
or they're kids that are looking to get their high school equivalencies, because we also will have somebody there.
They wouldn't.
Who do they contact? Who's the contact?
I'll look it up. I'll look at my phone.
Great.
He's in the mayor's office, and I know his name. I just have to make sure.
Okay.
Raul.
Raul?
R-A-U, I think is his last name. But yeah, I mean, it's a continual, like almost a barrage of emails from them.
Okay.
And they send them out to the neighborhood associations and our contacts, and then we push them out to everybody. Because this is something typical of the type of thing that we would get.
Yeah, this would be perfect.
Any 4-H news?
Yeah. So I'll make it quick. So for those of you who don't know about 4-H, I come from our neighborhoods. Our biggest 4-H club is in School 29. Our
Right.
biggest in-school 4-H
We're
club.
very happy to have it, so it's really been awesome for us.
Yeah. It's been wonderful working with them. Leanne Dupree is our teacher there.
She's a real superstar.
She's wonderful.
She is. Superstar.
Yeah. Also, 4-H, if you don't know what it is, it's a youth development program that connects youth to hands-on learning, and it builds life skills. So we do a lot of different things. We do games and stuff like that. So the whole thing is their social emotional learning, a bunch of stuff like that. They do experiences that help them have a well-rounded understanding. A volunteer in a community might lead a club with kids. Or what we've been doing, which is in School 29, is we have an in-school club or an after-school club. So after-school clubs, maybe like at one school there's a librarian who runs it, and a lot of kids would come once a month and do stuff there, and we would provide support. And then for our in-school club, School 29 is an example, Leanne Dupree, she invited us into her classroom to help her, so that we brought resources for her. We were able to connect her with volunteers from U of R. This year, we had like 8 volunteers come in for 5 weeks each, and they just mentored the kids, and it was really great. And we also had our 4-H educators go in and do a couple projects with them. They did like a 6-week learning session, and this was all free to the school. Like, you have to.
Well, sign
Yeah.
44 on.
What's the age?
Yep, it's 5 through 18. Yeah.
Kindergarten could do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we get on that list?
Just
Could you give us your contact information?
Yeah. Here, I'll pass my card around. I have a couple, I think. Oh no, I have one. Okay, I'll give you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take a picture.
Yeah. So for School 29, I also wanted to mention we have something called 4-H Expo, which is happening in July. It's Sunday, July 14th, from 12 to 6. All of
this?
Rochester is invited. And
Do you want that?
It's
Or you-
like
or you
a
already
huge
have it?
event. We're gonna have
I
like
think I've
Rock
got
on the
it,
Moon's
yeah.
gonna be there. We're gonna have like animals, a bunch of stuff like that. So anyway, for 4-H, usually during the Monroe County Fair, 4-Hers go and they do an exhibit. So this is kind of like our Monroe County Fair. So Leanne's Club, they created a project, like a class project. They made a Jeopardy board that taught them, that showed like everything that they learned throughout the year. So we're gonna have that on display at 4-H Expo, and it's gonna have a blue ribbon on it, and all the kids got their own little ribbons, and it's really cute. So that event's coming up. We're also, if anybody wants to volunteer for it, by the way,
Where is that going to be?
Yeah, where?
it's at Charlotte Beach.
Charlotte Beach?
Yeah, it's under one of the little pavilions.
And it's 4 to 6?
It's 12 to 6, so it's all day. Yeah.
Is it safe down there?
Yes. Yes. Yep. So.
Unless you get washed away, but.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's probably your biggest issue.
Yeah.
Just contact you.
Yeah. Yeah. I can send you more information. We work with, like I said, mostly teachers. What grade do you teach?
Kindergarten.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the hardest.
That is pretty hard.
It's the most fun in the world.
Yeah.
But that's the hardest.
Yeah. Yeah, so we mostly what we do is we can give you curricula if you have like a certain subject that you want to like have enhancements for.
Is this your?
This is junk, but this is like a overview.
No,
of
I mean a
what it
piece of paper so I can write our information
is.
down.
Oh, yeah, you can write on my junk.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah.
So are we having a meeting next month, June?
Yes, we are. We are going to have,
July?
yep, July, we'll have Daisy Algren should be here, so hopefully one of the things that she had offered, she's
Together.
the head of the neighborhood service centers in Rochester, and she's offered to, use the outreach program they have to get people out into the community, and we were thinking of maybe trying to piggyback on the superintendent's conference today, because she's offering to have a breakfast for teachers when they come back in the fall, so
Good. Great.
that'll be something for us to talk about next time she's here. One thing I wanted to check on is we set this up for 6 o'clock this month because the library, you can see how we tend to run over.
Yeah.
Is 6 o'clock okay for people, or?
It's kind of early for me. 6:30 is better, but
Yeah.
Well, it's very late for school teachers.
Okay, so it maybe is a
They
little
get out at
bit,
3:30.
it's a little better than
Thank you.
6:30 then.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
well, I'll come late.
Oh, okay.
That'll work.
And we'll do whatever you
All righty, is there anything else that we, unfortunately Louis Aponte didn't make it here. He was the fella in charge of the Josanna neighborhood up where School 17 is, but hopefully we'll see him at some other meeting.
I know a couple of things. If you've been driving around, we tried to decorate the bollards. I'm kind of new at elementary, so we kind of did it, and they aren't looking too great right now. If you look at the bollards, they're kind of haphazard. I mean, some of them are nice. We try to do a little more creativity with the students. So we're going to redo that. We're going to repaint them white again over the summer. The U of R Wilson Day, I'm going to ask them to come back. And then we're going to make it more like a school project. Every classroom will have a collaborative conversation, what they want to put on them. I think we should recognize famous Rochesterians, things like that. So what they have, and some of the things, a couple of things weren't the way we wanted them to do it, so we're going to probably cover up a couple of things before the summer. So the one on the corner of Kenwood and Kirk was not quite so bad, but even that one, you tried to include all the children, and there was too many kids. So we're going to redo those again, but they're going to be still kind of a nice thing for the neighborhood. They don't look terrible, but they don't look like you want them to look like. Also, you may see a big sandwich board.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going old school.
You said that.
I saw that. That's effective.
I got a couple calls already, so maybe it was right next to the garden called me.
Good.
So,
For recruitment?
yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea.
We're from one of the other corners. The lady just painted it today. I'm going to have to ask the people down here on Tennessee Street.
Bye, ladies.
Yeah, because
Take
we
care.
have one section of kindergarten. You might as well close our school in 2 or 3 years. You can't build a school in one section of kindergarten.
Sound familiar?
Yeah,
So super familiar.
So we have 35 children, 38 children right now, which is still kind of a small number. Now next year we get, 25 and all packed into one class. So I'm trying to be strategic, and if we get a waiting list, they're going to have to do something about it. Just I don't care what you do. You allocate another FTE. Let's keep it moving. So I'm starting my list. And then of course the old school sandwich board. And we all grew up. I grew up with that. I'm kind of an older guy. And so now we're going to actually use social media. Mercedes from the district, Snapchats, whatever that stuff is. I can't even name them all. But we're going to use them all. And we're going to, because our parents of our 5-year-olds are pretty young people, and they're all into all that stuff. So that's one of my major projects heading into the summer. I'll be gone most of the month of July, taking a long vacation for a change. But, we'll still get this ball rolling. So, you know, the other thing we mentioned here once, and I want, if I could advertise it with parents help, is the walking.
We have to wrap it up. Thanks a lot.
The walking school bus. When we spoke about that, and John, I'm going to put you on the spot now. Didn't you guys say, John say we could do some volunteers from this community, so the Southwest Common Council? I'm just throwing stuff out there at the 19th Ward, because I think that's another thing, a lot of our parents have issues with. Now, I'm going to have a staff member next year, 2 of them starting at 8:30 in the morning, and one will kind of help when the children first arrive. 2 of them, both are going to help. The concern we have at our school, we've tried this before, that it gets kind of out of control, where like everybody can see, it's like free daycare, so we're not trying to hurt our parents, but we really want to use it for the neighborhood parents who sometimes send their children to another school because they have to leave for work at 8:15 or 8 o'clock. So we use the walking school bus, and people walk the children to school, and we vet the volunteers. At first it's healthy, and that's what kids used to do in the old days anyways, we mostly walk to school. Then they get to 29 at 8:30, we're ready to receive them. We have a separate program just for the children. Okay? And that would be a real win for us. So we would build up the community neighborhood. In the afternoon, we are back to ELT, extended learning time, which works well for parents too, because the children get out at 4:30, okay?
You're keeping it next year?
Yeah, we're keeping it next year. We got it back, some other school didn't want it, I jumped on it, so we got it from 34, I think, or something. So then, now the bus, we have a PMA, 2 PMA, BPMB buses, which takes children home in the afternoon because it gets dark early in the fall there. So the parent now, it would be convenient for parents. They can get their children walk to school, and then even if they live, well, they're not right across the street, but right down Kenwood, let's say, the child's dropped off by the bus too in the afternoon. So that's going on. So I need to reach out to you folks about that walking school bus thing. That's going to be one of my big selling points, I hope, for the neighborhood parents. So it's kind of late for the meeting today, but where are we going with that? What was the next step?
Yeah, the thing that we, Healthy Kids were the people who were involved with that over at 19 and at 10. They tried it at both those schools, but each time they were running into too low a density of local kids going to that school to really have enough kids so you could make it worthwhile. I don't know how you're doing with local
well, one of the
student
two people
involvement.
She lives right next to the little lending library garden. She came out and watched our kids painting. I got a 5-year-old, so I'll sign them up. She's calling me on the phone. So we'll work on that.
Okay.
But we do have the program. Well, let's look at this other end of it instead. But parent has to leave for work at 8:15 or something like that. We can take a look at that one person. We do let some children arrive early and they kind of wait in the waiting area. So the parents leave at 8:15, they wait in the waiting area until 8:30, and then the people that show up, we can work that out. We're making one case at a time.
That's one of the things that is going to have to happen, even if we do get local busing, is you need to have the kids picked up at the same time they're being picked up now from the other side of town, so that if you're getting more local kids, if they would have been picked up at 7 o'clock to go across town, they should be picking up at 7 o'clock to go over to 44 or to 29. And then that means that school needs to be opened a little earlier and at least somebody there to keep an eye on the kids.
We're a late school. We don't start till 9, so the children probably, even most late schools, the kids aren't picked up before 8 o'clock or 8:15. So even if it's across town, the bus will get there in 45 minutes. So.
And the first throws at the walking school bus, it was the American Heart Association deal.
Yeah.
And there was all done by nurses.
Okay.
So the other one in contact is Visiting Nurse Service.
All right.
and the schools and nursing.
All right.
So
Well-
that people may be interested in that.
We'll talk some more. I'll communicate with you guys, okay?
Okay. And please try to get parents from your schools involved with this sort of thing. You know,
So we have parents that are being turned away now because they're trying to register their kids, and they're being told no. One parent was put on a waiting
ridiculous.
list, but other parents were told to go to a different school, and they already have children in our school.
That's been going, that type of stuff has been going on for quite a while.
At 44, because
Yeah.
Mary has
Yeah.
helped us every,
Well, I'm gonna start the
A long
waiting list
time.
myself and start banging the back, the drum.
sounds like you got a customer.